those of you who don't know me, my name is Hal Stater, and my official address is 656 Main Street. I've been a resident of Lillooet for over 60 years. First of all, I'd like to thank the Mayor and the members of the Council for offering their services to our community. These are very difficult chairs to fill. I know, I have been there. I have never seen such a large collection at any public meeting in Lillooet. Obviously, the circumstances have raised all our concerns. I would make, first of all, just a comment before I ask my question. We look at all the paperwork and all the documents submitted to us and all the numbers, and to most of you, including myself, we don't fully understand. And one of the reasons we don't understand is because we do not have the background information which goes into establishing each of these numbers. Without that background information, we can't be too critical. But obviously, we lack confidence in what is being presented to us, or we wouldn't be here. Therefore, I think if you will support me in this, I think we should ask the Mayor and Council to bring in an outside auditor to audit the background information that forms the basis for this budget.
This community will be going through an audit process starting within the next week, and that audit process will be done by BDO Dunwoody.
Here we go. So how come? Again, somebody that they know what? My
Mr.
goodness,
Upton.
Jesus, my goodness.
Excuse me, because Mr. Ratch had his hand up. Questions only, please. No statements.
Hey, Dave Ratch. Can everyone hear me? Good. I have a pretty loud voice.
No.
Mike?
No, go to them. Yeah.
Go to the mic.
Yes. Yes.
Just, everyone hear me now? Just one simple question concerning the fire chief position. Is there not a possible way to amalgamate more than one position and eliminate, this is kind of a cruel sounding question, but eliminate the person who's less trained, less vital to the safety of this community? For example, tighten up your works crew, or maybe combine fire chief with bylaw enforcement, or share bylaw enforcement and tighten up the works crew a little bit more, lay off one or more jobs, and still keep that skilled position, keep that skilled person in place.
The bylaw enforcement officer is a union position. It cannot be amalgamated with another. The bylaw enforcement officer is also going to be becoming the building inspector. He also does water meter reading and animal control. That is a full-time position.
What about the other workers that I mentioned?
There is no other workers. We are actually down one person in Public Works.
What about the visitor office?
Good question. You are asking out I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, we will ask individual questions. If you have a question, get up to the microphone.
Whoa. Where's the camera?
I'm just wondering if council has explored the option of turning the rec center over to a non-profit society so that it could be eligible for grants and funding that are not available to the district. And the second piece to that, Well, it's a separate question, really. But how can the arena piece be kept open with the rest closed down? Aren't the waterworks and heating and everything joined in the building?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch you kind of faded out with that last.
The second question was, how can the arena be kept open and not the rest of the building? Aren't the water and heating systems all joined? So how can you shut down part and not all, or leave part open and not shut down all? There's still going to be maintenance, hydro, water costs associated. So if the building's being heated and the water's still running, why can't it be used?
I'm a loud voice, so I'll just, can everybody hear me at the back?
No, get to the mic.
Use the mic.
Use the
Use the
mic.
mic.
All right, fair enough.
Can you hear me now? All
Yes.
right. So to answer your question in regards to the two-part, the first part is that because this building is union controlled, it would violate the union collective agreement if we were to turn it over to a nonprofit society. We will need to do further research in regards to what we can do with this recreation facility at that time. The second piece, in regards to, and sorry, can you repeat your question, please? Oh, sorry, it was the servicing in the building. The servicing in the building is taken into account in that 75% decrease. The 25% remainder will be to heat the facility, cool the facility on certain areas, and to make sure that the arena and other services that are provided in that section are adequately kept. Thank you.
No.
How's that? Okay, Vivian Brooks Jones, thank you for the opportunity in the forum. I have first-hand knowledge that the Recreation Center is an important recruitment and retention feature in our community for health professionals. Many others as well. The library is an invaluable asset as well, and I thought things were going very well at the Rec Center from my own impression, but particularly when the community endorsed it so strongly in our recent referendum. I'm also quite proud and grateful for our chief and fire services, very important in our vulnerable little dry, hot town. I'm worried that the council has been a bit sort of cloistered in a fishbowl with staff and not necessarily getting expert advice from outside. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity. I mean, I work with government and you ask for extensions to deadlines all the time. And why not, in this extraordinary circumstance, ask for an extension to your May 15th deadline and try and get a little more advice and expertise from maybe some other people. So to make it into a question, would the council consider asking for an extension on the budget deadline and getting some outside advice and expertise? Thank you.
On Monday night,
Let's hear the answer.
We did talk to the ministry, and our budgets must be passed before May 15th. They must be passed by May 14th. At that point, if we don't pass our budgets, we are still liable for $1.84 million of levies for other governments and our debt. There is no exception to municipal government bylaws for the tax rates and the budget.
good evening. On Monday night, the council indicated that. Microphone.
Hello. Monday night, the council indicated that they were unaware of the dire straits we were in. At this point, how can the council, without a full forensic audit, tell us what state we're in financially? Thank you.
Council has had this information since the start of their term. Staff has worked with council through multiple budget meetings to educate council on our current budget. The deficit was always present. Staff worked hard to examine all possible cuts to non-core services and unfortunately had the grim task of providing council with the recommended detail in this budget.
That was not the question put forward. The question is, how do you know what financial state we're in without a full forensic financial audit? That was the question.
We are not having a forensic audit. We have an audit every year as per the community charter, and it is conducted by BDO Dunwoody, who is recognized worldwide as one of the premier accounting firms. Yes, Mr. Upton.
On Monday night, there was talk of hiring a manager for the water treatment plant. And I'm wondering, with all these cuts, how can we afford to hire a manager for the water treatment plant?
We are not hiring a manager for the water treatment plant. I don't know where you got that
From the CAO, his hand up, might want to check with him.
Please behave and talk respectfully.
In response to Mr. Upton's question, the municipality has taken a look at its management positions and has downgraded the Director of Public Works Service down to a Manager of Public Works Service, therefore saving the municipality $32,000 in salary. Thank you.
My name is Lloyd Stock. I've got a question. But prior to the question, with regard to the fire chief in the projected budget for this year and going forward into a volunteer position, downgrading from a full-time position, I see that there's only a difference of about $45,000 between a volunteer fire chief and a full-time fire chief going forward into 2016 and 2017, 2018, 2019. I question whether or not for a small variance of $45,000 for such a strategic position within the municipality that we'd even be addressing removing the fire chief's full-time position.
The cost of a full-time fire chief is $93,000. That amount, when it was put in place last year, was never budgeted for. There was never any discussion of raising taxes to cover that amount. Half of that wage was taken out of the fire department budget, and the other half was taken out of other departments. We cannot afford it.
Okay, Madam Mayor. Primary reason I'm here is I spent 3 hours today with an ad hoc finance committee of financial background people in this community who collectively spent over 30 hours of time going through what we're dealing with here tonight, and it raised a very important question. And the question is just this: why do we not have an advisory finance committee of people in this town with skill sets to provide some input and guidance to what is happening here tonight?
At the last council, the mayor of the day was to put one in force, and that did not get followed through. If it is something that council would like to have staff draw up in terms of reference, then that can be done. We are already starting 3 other committees, and so finance could be a 4th.
And Madam Chairman, the Finance Committee is a standing committee. Standing committees are appointed by the mayor and also contain 50% of the committee membership as members of council. It's in the charter.
I will have staff research it.
Thank you.
Hi,
my name is Karen Cliff, 547 Columbia, and I have a question that a child of 2 can answer. These are not my words. This is the first sentence on the district website, and at the very first thing listed as a town amenity is the rec center. These are not my words. This is the very first sentence on the town website. And I have a very simple question. The sentence on our website is, which I did not write,
Please
the
address your
District
question
of
to me.
Lillooet, the District of Lillooet Recreational, Educational, and Cultural Center is the heart of the Lillooet community. And my question is, what happens to something when you remove its heart?
If this community would like to see their taxes increased 27% to cover the cost of the deficit, plus the additional cost for the rec center upgrades, sign up.
Why can't we just go back in time and review everything
I'm so
before?
sorry that I did not wait for the answer. I guess then my question is, those of you that know me,
Please address your
I'm
question.
seasonal.
Please address your question
All right,
here.
when I left town in the fall, the people of this community recognized that we needed additional funds. And when I left town in the fall, I was led to believe that there was a successful vote so that we wouldn't be sitting here tonight and that it was voted that we have these additional funds. And so I guess my question is this based on on revenue as it is, or are these on newly projected revenue figures based on what the community voted for the tax levy?
The tax levy was addressing capital infrastructure improvements that this building absolutely needs. It needs $1 million worth of upgrades to keep this facility going. They were not operational. The tax levy was not for operational costs. I know people have said that they're raising money for the rec center, but today we haven't seen one extra cent from anybody else other than the District of Lillooet.
Yes, Mr. Vanderwood, your question, please.
Since the people of Lillooet heard the town is broke, they are asking me, how can this be? What happened? I will give you an example. Our ex-CIO was paid $110,000 a year for over 6 years. That's $660,000, plus his severance pay of $344,000. That comes to $1 million. Is there anyone here wondering, maybe we're overpaying our administration? And I would ask the council to review the administration costs of this district. Thank you.
We are in a worldwide global market when enticing staff to come and live and work in Lillooet. The average cost of a CAO experienced is anywhere from $110,000 a year up. We are in competition with every community in this province. There are more CAOs, directors of finance, and public works directors retiring than there are replacing them. If anyone who has sons or daughters in high schools looking for a future work, tell them to go and learn local government, because the replacement of the people who are retiring is just not there. And they will go where they get the best dollar. Yes, Leslie?
Well, I'm just shocked to think that we're in this situation where this building that the community worked so hard on to build and has been here for a lot longer than other things that have come into this town. My question is, will this council and the administration please consider what the public is willing to give up before you close this rec center?
As I just stated, if the majority of residents in Lillooet want to see a tax increase on their property taxes of 25% on top of the 5% already there, step up.
No, that's not the point I was trying to get. The point is, we have things like too many vehicles. Where did all these vehicles come from? My husband was fire chief. He put a decal on his truck. This means that we have too much going on in this town.
Yes.
That we don't need. Well, it's nice to have. It's lovely to have a nice clean street downtown, and I love the trees, and I love the fact that the lawns are cut. But you know, Hangman's Park, I mean, we never did cut the lawn, and it looked fine. Mm-hmm. Why do we have all this extra stuff when we want a rec center?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Houghton.
No. Use your mic.
Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Rob Houghton. I've lived here for approximately 41 years, I think. I was wondering, for a cost-cutting measure, could you move your office from its present location to the rec center?
To the rec center.
And in so doing, either rent or lease or sell the existing location.
We do have court services there, and we have to maintain the building.
I think they can manage. It's provincial. They will find their own way.
That can be taken and discussed.
You don't have to maintain it if you don't own it, do you, Mark?
Yeah, we own it.
Sell it.
Rent it. Sell it. Exactly.
That old building, which I love dearly,
It's old building.
has so many things wrong with it.
Absolutely.
Because it's never had any TLC given to it. So, and court, we have a lease with court services.
Okay, well, as a homeowner, as a vehicle owner, say, when your vehicle starts to cost too much money, what do you do with it?
Your suggestion is very worthwhile, and we can take that back and have a discussion. No problem. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Jane Duber. I was reading in your communication strategy that the Local Government Act requires local governments to undertake a process of public consultation regarding a proposed financial plan before it is adopted. Do you consider this meeting to be a complete process?
Yes, this is the public meeting set out to discuss the financial plan.
No, it's
I guess really my question is not, is it, but do you consider that you have adequately consulted the public?
absolutely good question.
Yes, this is what is required by the community charter.
So if we say no to closure,
Yes,
so the public says no to closure. Yeah.
My name is Bob McKay. I lived in the community for 45 years and was involved in the initial rec center in 1985. At that time, we got $300,000 from the First Nations community to help us build the rec center. I believe the mayor stated on Monday that there's been no approach to the First Nations to help us with this current situation. Is that right, Madam Mayor?
will you say that again, please?
As you stated on Monday night that the First Nations have been approached many times unsuccessfully to help fund the rec center. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Well, I have a severe hearing disability, ladies and gentlemen, and through the years, I've found a lady who has a unique ability to help me understand in these meetings. Her name is Susan James. Susan, would you like to stand up? She's the administrator. Tribal Council representing all of Native bands in the area. Her part-time job is chief of the Bridge River Band, ex-Whiston. She's a busy lady. She tells me that the natives have never been approached formally to help fund the rec center. She said that the Tribal Council, and I suggest that the way to get to the First Nations people is through Susan. She can approach all the native bands at one time, and she has told me that they would be receptive to her presentation. So I have another question.
Over the years, many mayors and councils and the director of recreation have sent letters. We've had meetings with various chiefs and asked for help in financing the rec center. 10 days ago, I spoke with Chief Whitney. And asked him how I would go about making a presentation to the Tribal Council about the rec center. And he instructed me to go through the CAOs. So I have been trying, and I am a little upset of what you said, because I have been trying, and so has other mayors and councils over the years, as well as the Director of Finance. I'm sorry if it does not get through the lines of communication, but we go to the ones who we work with, and that is how it's been for years.
Well, I'm sorry if I'm upset here. I'm upset too. But let's try again. Let's try a fresh start. Let's go to them again with the right people and see what we can do.
I am quite willing. I would not have asked Chief Whitney the question if I wasn't willing to go and make a presentation to the Tribal Council. I have been trying to do that. But when I get told by a chief that I have to go through the CAOs,
I hope we all realize that 60% of the population in the area is now First Nations. I have another question. This is to the councillors, not to. Have you council members asked the staff?
Excuse me, Mr. McCabe. Council is here to listen only. You will direct your question to me.
Oh.
Okay, I'll ask you then,
That's
Madam Mayor. Have you, and together with the council, asked the staff for other ways to cover the deficit as opposed to shutting down the rec center?
We have gone over it, staff has gone over it. We have been hitting our head against the wall.
Are you confident with the assumptions that have gone into the rec center? I'm sorry, into the 5-year plan?
Sorry?
Are you confident with the assumptions that have gone into the 5-year plan?
Yes.
Totally confident?
Yes. Mr. Upton, this is the second time.
Can't keep a good man down.
So what, second time? My goodness.
Are you still applying for the Brownsfield grant for the abandoned dump land?
This is for the financial plan. It was passed by council at the last meeting to apply for it.
So once you make that land clean, for an easy word, can we afford to fix it up?
The grant to bring that brownfield up to the specifications laid out by the Ministry of Environment and what it will look like for the future is 100% funded by the Ministry of Environment.
So trees, shrubberies, benches, pathways, that's what I mean, to make it a final part.
The discussion is to make it a zero-scape landscape rather than just have it all weeds and use it as a park for people to take their dogs to walk them.
So is all that you just said covered by the grant?
It is all covered by the grant.
Thank you.
Hello, I live on Airport Road. I just wanted to say something about the audit. Now,
a question, please, no statement.
Oh, can you hear me? Is that better? The audit. What you have done as an audit is by an outfit that only goes over what you give them. Fair enough? The kind of audit we want is that somebody can go in there and have a look at everything that's happened over the last few years. It's not to blame anybody, and it's not to point fingers. But what it's there for is so that suddenly, in 1 week, we don't find out we're broke.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, you were doing it, have the rec center and all the money poured into the rec center, and everything was going to be very good, and here's the election, and we're going to waste all this money on a lawyer fighting a bylaw, because we believe that the money was there. If you think that in 1 week, this council had to face the fact that there was no money, you need an audit, because back there somewhere, something went dreadfully wrong. And if this town is going to heal, it has to know what it is.
They know what it is, it has to be set down.
The audits that are conducted by BDO Dunwoody are in-depth audits.
All right,
and
I'll tell you something.
they will be explained when the audit is done. They come to the district office and do a presentation, and they go through the audit.
Well, then you guys forgot to tell your auditor about the money from the hop farm, because in the last notice that I saw from Dunwoody, there's a major problem because you guys never notified them about the money from the hop farm. Now they're waiting for a legal representation from the lawyers, and it's not their fault. But you didn't give them the information that they needed in order to deal with that problem. You haven't given them the information of all the lawsuits that are outstanding right now.
You are going into territory that we cannot discuss in public.
That's not
not?
true.
That's
Not true.
That
You know
they,
what this isn't?
they
Get
are
something
legal.
straight.
Poor.
I am chairing the
Just
meeting,
like
and they are legal questions, and we are not allowed by our legal counsel to discuss them.
That's why we need an audit. Exactly the reason. Because
Ask your
my question is that you might not want to discuss the legal things, and I'm not going to say anything except you've got to.
Our legal costs are over $50,000, Vera, and you're very aware of that. So,
Sorry, say
there's
that
no
again.
problem with our
Sorry.
parcel tax. Our audit has upped the risk of our annual audit by $5,500 a year because we are now in a higher risk bracket. Thank you.
That doesn't answer the question.
We
What is
cannot
that?
discuss our legal matters at this meeting.
Well, that's why we came to this meeting, because of those legal matters.
Is that gray area
That's
that we're
where we
not
are.
allowed to talk about?
We cannot discuss anything that is in legal at the moment. It is forbidden for council. That is an in-camera confidential information, and we cannot discuss it.
The whole town is aware of the flooded homes. The whole town is aware of the appeal coming up. The whole town is aware of all the other cases. It's not a secret.
It's not
That's
up
what
to
I'd
us.
like to know, is that taken into consideration in this budget? And are we going to get a proper audit done so that we can look back over the years and see where the problem is? That's all I have
We
to
should
say.
vote. We should have a vote. Community is here.
Hi there. I have two questions and I'll be brief. Before putting together this budget proposal, I would like to know what information staff received from the fire department. When you were putting this together, your budget proposal for making costs for your fire service, what information did you receive from the firefighters and the fire chief in that process? And the second question is, have you considered eliminating any staff in the district office?
Yes, the fire chief does have input to the budget. He brings us his budget. The only thing that we cut from there was the salary because that was the only thing we cannot afford. It was added in 2014. It was never funded by tax dollars. When you add to the budget, you must fund them. You must pay for your expenses.
In regards to the staffing in the municipality itself, Ben, looking at the overall staffing, you're talking city hall staff? Okay, so we have one CAO, me. We have one deputy clerk. We have one director of finance and a deputy director of finance. As per municipal law, and municipal finance is a very complex animal. As well, we have one bylaw officer that also does our water facilities, checks our water leaks, etc., and does our animal control. We have a temporary building inspector. We have two administrative people that are dealing with accounts payable and receivable. And we have a person that's on contract, for 1 year at a time, which is a person who does our consultation, grant writing, proposals, and communication. We also have, again, as I said before previously in this meeting, downgraded the Director of Public Works to a Manager of Public Works. Therefore, we are constantly looking for ways to save money on administration. We have contacted $36,000 in decreases over the switch to positions. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I wish to say quite clearly here that, in my opinion, I'll ask the question first, because you're asking the question. Did Dunwoody and Company ever red flag any of their reports to you? Did they red flag what's going on? I mean, they must have seen something, because we've got little money.
Did you say red flags?
Yeah. An accountant advise
There was
you.
never a problem with BDO's audit of the District of Lillooet. These numbers are real numbers. They've been there all along for anybody to see them.
Well, my comment, thank you very much. My comment to that is, how did we get here then? But anyway, the other part is, we are not in competition with the other communities. Right now, we are only interested in straightening out our community. We can be insulated for a while, let's rebuild, and if you want to go in competition or work with other communities, we do that when we're fit and well and can actively get involved with them. And I really, that's a bit of advice actually. But quite honestly, we should look at this in a straight term. Every big business, when it gets into trouble, it cuts the top part. They've gone every time, you know. And we seem to be very reluctant to think that a well-trained person of less salary couldn't handle a town like this, where a village status in population, and definitely in the village status in taxpayer base. So my question to you is, let's forget about levels like that. You can't have people going around earning huge salaries when you're trying to cut people to save $30,000 here, $30,000 there. You start at the top and then you start looking right down the line. So I would really like you people to do that. Thank you. Do you have a question back for me? Do you have a question back for me? Okay.
Madam Mayor, just for clarification, I sense that some people are distrustful of the accounting and the audit procedure. Are you and council satisfied with the professional, upstanding quality of BDO Dunwoody?
Yes, I have been dealing with BDO Dunwoody for many years, and they are recognized by the provincial government as a reputable accounting firm. They are used by municipalities across the province.
A follow-up question, Madam Mayor. The Chief Administrative Officer is required to meet certain professional standards. Are you comfortable that the Chief Administrative Officer is meeting those standards?
Yes, I am.
Another follow-up question, Madam Mayor. The Director of Finance is, I would assume, is expected to meet a level of professional qualifications. Are you comfortable that the Director of Finance meets those qualifications on behalf of the District of Lillooet?
Yes, she does.
Thank you, Madam.
Hi there, Scott Hudson here. I was a founding member of the board of directors here, and for 13 years served as a volunteer director before the function was taken over from the district. I've been involved in many repairs and replacement of components in the HVAC system and whatnot. And my first question is, if the finances are in such dire straits, why would the district engage an engineering firm to do a completely unnecessary and expensive study on a facility that they think they now have to close down and come up with numbers in the millions of dollars to repair things that I know for a fact would take $5,000 or $10,000 a year to stay ahead of it? This is a good building, it's not falling down, it just needs minor repairs. And why, if we are in such dire straits, are you spending these monies on studies that are completely unnecessary?
Excellent. Woohoo!
The last council knew of the budget deficit, but chose to move forward with a referendum and not address how we will run the rec center.
Pardon?
And in a deficit position.
You were in the last council.
Yes, I was.
And in your council's term, this engineering study happened, did it not?
Yes, it did.
So you approved this, knowing that we were in such dire straits that we couldn't afford 40 grand for a fire chief, or even to do an assessment of the relative merits of spending some pellet fuel on heating this section of the building in lieu of a few wages and energy to earn the revenue that we get from user fees for the health club, rentals for this gym, rentals from CBC Radio, the library rental, all of which I know from my 13 years of experience pretty well is a saw-off to the wages and heating for the central core area. Now we know the pool's a tough sell, but that's out in this scenario. But the way you've lumped general revenue and core area expenses in this document make very little sense to me.
As we said, the District of Lillooet, over and above all those fees that you discussed, yes, we do get library fees, and yes, we do get rentals and user fees here, but the District of Lillooet is still contributing over $400,000 to run the rec center. It has never been budgeted.
It looks like 139 in this document.
It's over $400 the District of Lillooet contributed to the rec center in 2014 to keep the doors open. This building has, we received initial funds to start it and build it, yes, but those contributions have not continued. The District of Lillooet pays every year over $400,000 to keep the doors open. They cannot afford it anymore.
If you look at the incremental cost of this main core area, which is some pellets to heat it, some power to power it for lighting, and a small percentage of staff fees, which you've already committed to if you're actually going to operate the arena as well. So for a half-time staff to man the office, for a janitor to clean the place once a week, you're going to earn what used to be, from my estimates, $50,000 in revenue from rentals and user fees here that you won't get otherwise.
Again, sir, just bring this meeting back. This is about the budget. Understand this. And I'd like to finish my point. Sir, can I finish, please? I'd let you be please let me finish. Understand this. Staff is directed to do what they do on the basis of council's decisions. We provide the best information to council based on the requests of council. We provide those things, council can debate them, decide whether they wish to go forward with our information or deny it. I will finish, sir. Now, the report comes back and says it's 1.3 million, 1.03 million. So I'm hearing now that you're now not trusting the study, let alone you're calling the study completely incorrect. So my issue is this. I've got a full consulting company that we've hired to do this at a cost that's come back and reported this. I've got my report. That is it. That is what we do. We consult with the experts. We go out and get these reports. We are a small community with very limited funds. We do not have an engineer on staff. We do not have planners on staff. We do not have mappers on staff. We brought this municipality down to bare bones staff so we can run it. I hate to break this to everybody here, and I'm sorry to say it. Core services is what the municipality is responsible for under the community charter. You got your lights, you got your utilities, you got your roads. The rec center is not a core service.
That's it, just give it back to the society.
And I'm sorry that I need to break it to you. My family uses this, I use this. This was a difficult decision to bring forward to council. It hurt. We had to bring it forward. Simple as that.
And I am bringing it forward to council's attention also. That study was bogus. I am a professional engineer. I've had 40 years experience in this facility. I've repaired it and maintained it ongoing for a number on the order of $5,000 a year, which I'm suggesting is the right number, not $1 million plus replacements.
Just to respond to the gentleman's question, we're required to put out RFPs for layman's terms, request for proposals. Sir, if you had that expertise, did you apply for the RFP? Thank you.
Why, please?
Don Blakey, I'm a local teacher here. Couple quick questions. Has council considered maybe going to garbage collection once every 2 weeks as opposed to once a week? And second, is there a possibility to turn around and instead of using the money from the referendum that the majority voted for, instead of putting that into the capital expenditures to try and repair the building, can we get away with doing minimal repairs and divert that money into keeping the rec center open by putting that money into operations.
What not say? Who told you so? The report. There was a report done 5 years ago.
Sorry, but I...
5 years ago, reported
forgot
it's
what
not
your
safe.
very first question was.
Can we go to bi-weekly garbage collection? And then can we possibly redistribute that referendum, the money that we're going to be paying anyway, can we redistribute that between capital and possible operations?
So yes, sir, to answer your first question in regards to the bi-weekly garbage, this is something I believe that is on council's strategic plan. That's coming forward from 2015 to 2019. I know it is on my report list to do. So staff will be analyzing whether we can alter our collection services to change demand at that point. And I'll hand it off to our Director of Finance apparently at some point if she sees me. Bye. If you could just ask a second point of the question, please. Thank you.
We can collect additional taxes to fund the operations of the rec center, but it will be in the order of about 27% additional tax over and above the 5.
That wasn't my question. My question was, there was a referendum in the last local election. That referendum passed where every household in town would pay, I believe it was $83 per 100,000, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. And that money, you said earlier this evening, was going to be used to fund capital expenditures to repair this rec center. So I'm asking, is there a way of changing that money, and instead of using it all for capital expenditures to do repairs, can we put it into operations, divvy it up either way? I'm more than willing to let that happen because I'd rather see this open than this close, because if this place closes, this town dies.
At this time, there's no rec levy in the budget. It has been removed from the budget as well as the capital expenditures for it.
Follow up if I could, please, Chair. Why is it being removed? It was passed. And if it means providing extra income to help out with this, I myself am more than happy to let that levy remain. So why is that money not being counted in towards this budget?
We have removed most of our capital expenditures. There's very little left in there to fix anything. It is a council decision to put it back in or to not put it in.
It's a council decision, so the council can take that suggestion back and discuss it, and it is their discussion, their prerogative, or their whatever, to decide that.
Sorry, so council decided to remove that levy off the books, so that levy is not going to be used right now. Is that what I'm understanding?
It's not there right now. But if your suggestion that you've put forward, council wants to have a discussion on that, and it is their decision to make whether to continue with the levy or not.
Well, in my opinion, even though it won't solve all the issues, at least it's a start.
Yes. It's crazy. My.
In regards to the paid fire chief position, we were told that every option had been exhausted, and I know for a fact that when the fire chief position was eliminated from the budget, no one came in to the fire department, into the fire hall, to ask if there was any ways that the department could cut their budget in order to compensate. And I'm wondering if any of the neighboring Statlium communities were given the opportunity to maybe give their input before it was proposed in the budget to eliminate that position.
Staff in their weekly staff meetings discuss the budget. The CAO and the Director of Finance talk to all of the department heads on their budget. That decision is with the District of Lillooet.
I have to state this, that we were never spoken to. So, I think it-
I'm sorry, Mr. Harder.
So what you're saying is that, I mean, I understand that you don't need to go to the Statlian communities and consult with them, but wouldn't it have been appropriate, since this is also two of our neighboring Statlian communities' fire chief, wouldn't it have been appropriate to maybe see if they had any ideas or could give any input into the elimination of the position?
We do invoice to Scotland for some of the fire department budget, but it nowhere comes to cover those costs. Those costs were not in there a year ago. They were put in there without adequate tax dollars. We can only charge the Statliam what we have in our fire services agreement and no more.
This is a public meeting to inform the community required by law in order for council to submit the 5-year financial plan. So my question is, if the community disagrees with this 5-year plan, is council going back to the table, reviewing it, and coming back to the community with a revised plan for our approval? Or is this just a step that the council has to take as required by law, and this plan is going to be submitted anyways?
Good question.
This is a step that is required by mayor and council and staff to do under the community charter. Once we've completed the information session with the public, it then goes back to council for final reading and adoption.
You quoted BDO. BDO gave a report in 2013 that we had a surplus of $2 million. And a quote, rainy day fund in the newspaper. Now we're in a deficit. And at that point, we have $900,000 up to borrowing to keep things going. So we went from $2 million rainy day fund, and you don't want a full forensic audit? Well, I think the people do, and we're going to go ahead with it, whether you're going to cooperate or not.
Excuse me. Excuse me. The surplus that BDO Dunwoody quoted includes capital. The District of Lillooet capital is part of the surplus, not part of the operating surplus. That is still there. We have been funding our assets, our water treatment plant, on 100% grant funding. That increases our capital surplus, which increases our surplus. It is still there. But that is not spending money.
Prove it!
Can everybody hear me? Okay, I'll speak up a little bit. My name's John Willie. I'm a longtime resident of Lillooet here. I've sat up in the hot seats up the front 40 here, and it's a bit of a hot seat. I'll keep my comments small, but I unfortunately see that there's a real sad case of the tail wagging the dog in this instance. Agreed, the council directs the staff to prepare information for them. Agreed that the staff sit down and we discuss that information and return that recommendation to you. I question this, and this is 3 questions, sort of all tailed together. The first question is, in all the time, Madam Mayor, that we've been discussing budget, have you actually sat down and done a line-by-line discussion with staff and your co-workers on the council to actually determine this budget? Or are you running from, or are you running from synopsises and reports? I don't think so, because the question I've got is this: then you'd actually be in that office every week discussing the budget all the time with them. Because obviously this has been going on for not just this year, not just last year, and not the 3 or 4 councils before, but it's been going on for a while. The council, Madam Mayor, under your direction, actually knew that this was coming down the pipe. The comments at Monday night meeting was, holy moly, this is the first I heard of this. So, the question I have is this. I think conservation starts at home. Have you talked about, with your cohorts, actually reducing your own stipend and your own remuneration and taxes incurred, and also going back to your staff and saying, okay, why don't you guys kick it a little bit at the cat? The other point, too, is that all your employees are required to work an X amount of time a year, or a month, or a day, or a week. Bring them down to that number and leave it at that. Savings are savings are savings. This building here, the funding's been rescinded. The bylaw's been rescinded. It sits at third reading at the district council office. Tonight, we'll have this kick at the cat. We'll all talk about this. We'll all discuss things. We'll have our show of hands or straw vote or discussions. But at the end of it, the wag will tell the dog that now we're going to sign this little piece of paper and send it off. Because it has to be done by May 15th. Well, negatory. I put to you, you have the opportunity right now to sit down with the staff and actually review all this stuff and get a better budget with more, not reductions and not cuts, but more intelligent thought and more rational thought as to what you're doing. Because the message you're sending is really crappy. Very terrible. And I'm not, for one, wanting to have the people that we elected in the last election painted with a really nasty tar brush. They don't need it. I voted for them almost completely. I voted for them because I had confidence in their intelligence, I had confidence in their abilities, and I had confidence in their ability to actually learn the process. Again, the tail is wagging the dog in this instance. Thank you very much.
Council has had numerous budget meetings with staff where we have gone over line by line, section by section of the budget. The deficit was always there. And you have to go through the process of each section, the public works section, the fire department section, general government section, and that is what we did. And it all came down to this.
I've been listening to this.
Just left.
I am going to call a close to the end of this meeting. Thank you for coming.
I would like to say something. This council has done an amazing job. They were, all of a sudden, the whole thing was thrown on their shoulders a week ago. They had no idea what they were getting themselves into, right up till the taking away of the vote of the 390 bylaw. These people have gone through hell, and I think everybody in this room put them in the seats because we have faith in them. Don't take that away from them.
Please recognize the point of order, madam. Do your job. Point of order.
What did she say? What did that lady in gray hair say?
That I called the meeting to
The
a
previous
close.
mayor, like to
That
what did
We still have speakers here.
You still have speakers
We
standing.
have questions.
You still have citizens here that want an answer.
You called questions, we have questions.
Point of order.
My question is, if we are applying for a grant for $1.3 million for a dog park on the old dump site, why couldn't we have applied for the same grant for the rec center? Because it's under the strategic priorities fund of the UBCM, gas tax, and it qualifies. I wonder why we didn't.
These financial issues are long-standing and need to be resolved. A small community with a limited budget should have taken the public's comments into consideration, and this clearly has not been done. Regarding the audit, you and your councillor are here to serve the people, and with that, why wouldn't you respect our warrant for a forensic audit?
Well, it's
I
a
think the biggest question
public
is,
discussion.
has this council, Madam Mayor,
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to sign the petition. All right?
my question is, there's been, okay, I'll let the people have a listen to this question. Has the council ever thought of ways of generating money rather than cutting it?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, see, I broke my pen. My goodness.
So how many people do you figure here tonight? 200?
500.
So if
Because
every
already
member,
you left.
if every member that's here tonight.
Just to notice
Rec
everybody
Center on a
here,
regular
some of the
basis,
councillors will
we
remain
wouldn't be in
on
this
to after to
text.
answer your questions as the mayor is the chair of the meeting and has called the meeting. We can no longer continue with this, and saying that, some of the
Wow.
councillors have wished to stay behind and answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
That is not fair.
So when is the next public meeting then?
This is the third meeting. This was the third meeting for the financial part.